Not even bother. Let's talk to Ian and see if Ian has something for us we can handle today.
Maybe, I don't know. So I listened to the stuff you did on critical race theory, and the one thing that made me think was, I think it was the guy's name's Kyle Howard. He said that he's more sure about Martin Luther King's salvation than he is about Jonathan Edwards and another gentleman.
George Whitefield.
George Whitefield. Okay. And I was thinking, okay. So, but it got me thinking about, when John talks about people who walk in darkness, and I've used the comparison between slavery and abortion. I can't count how many times I've used it, trying to say to dehumanize people in this way is evil, and it's darkness, So I would say an abortion doctor is living and walking in darkness and could not possibly be a Christian. And I've benefited from Jonathan Edwards' writings. We're really listening. I listened to it. I can't read through it. But that kind of got me to thinking, and I wondered what you would say, because I said, well, so would I not say that owning slaves is walking in darkness? So I don't really have a category to fit those two things in. And it just got me thinking about, well, maybe the guy's statement has some validity to it, but the MLK stuff, so I would say orgies and adultery and that stuff is also walking in darkness, right? So I wouldn't not believe in the divinity of Christ or the resurrection, the bodily resurrection. I believe that, well, I wouldn't, but then I looked at the other side and I say, yeah, well, these guys, Orthodox in their beliefs, but am I going to say, so owning slaves is not walking in darkness? And I was just thinking about it. I had some thoughts. I wanted to throw it at you, see what comments you had on it. That's it.
Well, like I said when I addressed this, the issue is an abortion doctor knows full well the unique genetic makeup of the child, has to study very carefully the development of the child to be able to identify possible complications with the abortion procedure, to be able to identify how old the child is, how far along the development is, that type of thing. And so the abortion doctor lives in the blinding bright light of more knowledge of the nature of the unborn child than any preceding generation has ever had. And so that individual has to be judged on the basis of the knowledge that they possess. And when you compare that to the situation that existed in the early 1700s in the United States, I don't see that it is parallel. Specifically, what you would have to have would be that it would be common knowledge of any educated individual that there is no difference genetically, there is no difference in any way between black and white men or women as to their capacities, abilities, participation in the human family, et cetera, et cetera. Now, remember, this is a day they don't know anything about genetics, anything along those lines. Medical knowledge is exceptionally limited at this point in time. And so, unfortunately, there were many people who believed various theories about inferior peoples people who did not have the capacity to do what other people could do. And if there had been a united stand, if it was just known by everyone that this was a horrific institution and it was wrong, if there had been knowledge, for example, of black on black slavery in North Africa, I think that would have had a lot of impact upon how people thought about the subject in the United States. There was no CNN, there was no internet, there was no, information like that. If it even were to be published, might not even be available to people. If people had known about the slavery of Europeans, unfortunately, there was the assumption that all forms of slavery are the same. So Hebrew slavery, which was limited by the Jubilee year laws, which was limited in a number of other ways in the Old Testament law, would be used to defend the American form of slavery as if they were equal to one another. Same thing with Roman slavery, even though it differed both from the American form, mostly, and there were different American forms too, but American form, Roman slavery, Hebrew slavery. There's been slavery throughout the history of mankind. There still is today in Libya, for example, because there's no meaningful functional government in Libya right now. There are slave markets in Libya, and it continues to this day. And there are some places in some of the outback areas of Asia as well, where you have certain tribes that will sell the people they've defeated from other tribes and things like that. It continues on today, sadly. But if there had been a universal knowledge amongst the people, amongst the church, that this was a sinful practice, that these were men made in the image of God, then very clearly what Edwards or Whitefield did would be the same, would be the same as an abortion doctor, because they're well, if they killed the slave, yes, but in the sense of, it wouldn't be the same sin, murder of an innocent person, but it would be stealing someone. It would be against God's law. There wouldn't be any question about that. But that wasn't the case, and that's the problem. Is it's real easy to take the standards of what we know today. But even when you look back at the people that opposed slavery in the United States in those days, and then push a little bit more, what they actually were saying and the reasons they were saying it were not the same reasons that we would use today. For example, it's well known that Finney opposed the buying and selling of slaves, but he also strongly opposed anything like interracial marriage. Right. So, it would be nice if it was a clear issue, if it was just cut right down the middle, and you've got the clear heretics and the clear good guys. But unfortunately, history almost never allows us to have that. And so the question then becomes, when you make the comparison to what Martin Luther King did in his private life with his own ethics and morals in regards to sexuality, was it a big question in the 1950s and 60s? Concerning adultery, fornication, sex with multiple people? Was that something that was up in the air, and the church really, well, we don't know. Man, anymore, sadly, it's starting to become that way with some liberal denominations in our day, but it wasn't in the 1950s. It was very clear. It was very open. It was a direct rejection. It was a living of a double life. And so I would ask, basically, was Edwards knowingly living a double life with his beliefs in comparison to MLK? The only answer to that is no. Does that mean that what Edwards did was right? No, it doesn't. But it does place it in a meaningful historical context. And these days, trying to get anybody to put anything in a meaningful historical context is really tough. It's just really tough. Same thing with dealing with Luther and the Jews. When you try to do that, man, you just get into a whole lot a whole lot of trouble with people today because history is just sort of like Play-Doh. You get to form it in any form you want to.
Copy that.
Does that help at all?
Yeah, man. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it. I don't have anything else to say.
Okay. All right. I hope that was useful.
All right. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. God bless. Bye-bye.